So hi and welcome. So this is Matt again from the Festival of Martial Arts, and today I've got with me FightDad. So how you doing? How's life with you?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. I'm doing really well. Just balancing out the needs of kind of family, day job, martial arts, online, future, current, all that stuff. You know, everybody's always kind of busy and it's like spinning plates, isn't it? I'm sure it's the same for you, man. And the chat we were having earlier, it seems like it is that way.
Yeah, oh yeah, very much. Yeah, I mean, it's always good to be busy, isn't it? So for the people that may not know, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your history?
Sure. Yeah, I've been a martial artist pretty much most of my adult life. So I didn't start training when I was a kid, but I started training when I was an adult and tried a few different martial arts in there before. Started with capoeira and Muay Thai, and Muay Thai addicted me to hitting stuff really hard and hitting other people. That's pretty fun. But then I got drawn into the Filipino martial arts. So Filipino Kali is my kind of core obsession. I'm going to call it an obsession. I think that's okay to call it an obsession. And I've trained that since the 2000 and somethings. And I've been an instructor for almost that same length of time, because I don't know about you, but when something kind of catches hold of your brain and your brain just fizzles all of the time, even outside of physical training, like all those connections are being made and you're trying to work out, right, how can I connect this to that? How can I help someone else? And even in like classes, if I was paired up with somebody who wasn't getting it, because that was frustrating for me because I wouldn't get my training in, I'd be trying to teach them how to do it so we could do it together. And it just evolved into now I run my own club, and I also help students and instructors through the magic of online. So that's a pretty potted canned history there, hopefully.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So, yeah, you just briefly touched on that then with the online, because you're one of the people that are sort of embracing it and trying to push that forward as a medium. And it's quite interesting watching some of your Facebook posts and keeping an eye on where you're going with that, because it's a bit of a mixed bag, the reaction you get, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think with the power of online, I had this similar idea for how powerful it could be, back in 2016, 2017, but never really quite knew how to get into it, or when I started looking like the technology was too difficult. And then the start of the pandemic came along and we were like all locked at home and I couldn't teach my regular class. And I was like, well, how am I going to, communicate with my actual students? And rather than being smart and putting it on like a private website, I just put it on a public website that I built, FightDad.com. And I got people trying to email me and say, how do I get access to this? And I'm like, I don't know you. For money, I guess. And so I kind of fell into that route of selling online instructionals, and it's kind of grown from there. But in terms of the reactions, yes, when you express yourself in a passionate way and in one particular direction, it can be really attractive to the right kind of people and really repulsive to the wrong kind of people. And honestly, that's pretty good, because if you're like trying to be generic for everybody, then nobody will really love what you're actually doing. So expressing your opinions and expressing it with your own personality, I think is really important, because that will draw the right people towards you. It will also draw out some of those negative comments from people who feel the need to comment negatively online for whatever reason. And that could be, it could be missing context or assumed context, or it could just be that they've got some kind of venom inside them that they need to come out in some way. And the person on the video is an easy target because they think that they're anonymous. Maybe they don't even realize that the people reading the comments, the people doing the video actually read all the comments, and sometimes feel bad about that. I've kind of gone through that phase of really taking to heart negative comments. And now my stock response is, thank you very much for watching and commenting. Really helps with the algorithm. Thanks for helping me, increase my reach of my videos. Really appreciate it. So that's
no, absolutely.
Only a tiny bit sarcastic as well. It's like, it's genuine and it's a bit sarcastic. So that's, yeah. I don't know. Do you get similar comments now?
I think anybody that puts themselves out in the online space is opening themselves up to that kind of thing. it's just the way that it is. But I just put myself in the position of thinking, well, here I am looking at some of the greatest people at the moment delivering training, martial artists who have also gone into the online space. So you've got, actual UFC fighters, you've got actual coaches of many UFC fighters and top level guys, and they're getting the same sort of abuse.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, hang on a minute, you're talking about a guy that's been at the absolute peak of martial arts, the very forefront of what's capable for 40 odd years, and some random person on the internet is telling them they're rubbish. I just accept that.
Yeah, I think you're right to accept it and just realize that it tells more about the commenter than the creator of the video in many ways. But yeah, I think just thinking of that, I saw a video that Tony Jeffries, the Olympic boxing champion, undefeated pro fighter, Tony Jeffries, got. So he put up a video about power in the lead hook or something, and one of the commenters was like, "You want to keep your hands up, mate? Maybe get some boxing tutorials before you." And it was unironic, because I'm sure there are some people on there who they comment to get a reaction and start a thread going, or they comment that way ironically because they know it's Tony Jeffries and stuff. But this guy just seemed to be, like the context just went whoosh over the top of his head, and it's quite not good to see. It's a bit validating to see that, because, like you say, if it happens to everyone, then if it happens to me, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Oh no. That's it in a nutshell, isn't it? If it's happening across the board, then it's nothing personal. Don't take it that way. It's just part of the price for being in the online space, and the positives far outweigh the negatives. But so one of the things about that I find interesting is the fact that you've got that sort of style thing going on where somebody who hasn't had any understanding or influence from that style, who've never really tried that style, will say things about it that may or may not be true. And that's really one of the great things about something like the Festival of Martial Arts, is bringing everything together in a space together, so people can try all kinds of different things with all kinds of different people, and they can get a flavor of stuff that they maybe wouldn't have done before. So with yourself, I understand that you're not quite 100% sure yet as to what you're going to be doing, but what sort of things are we likely to sort of be expecting, and would it be helpful to maybe start a conversation, dialogue, and try and get some feedback from people as to what they would like you to do?
Yeah, that would be helpful. I mean, like Filipino martial arts is so vast, it can quite, like a lot of martial arts, it can quite easily cover the purely artistic side of things. It can quite easily cover the combat sport side of things, and it can be used for the technical elements of self-defense, and you can chain all those together to make what I call movie Kali. So that would be stuff that you see in the movies, and it's quite a good advertising line, isn't it? Learn to fight like Jason Bourne and come and try Kali at my class. That's one of the ones I've used quite successfully. Because it can encompass all of those areas, and understanding the context of why you're training what you're training in the way that you're training it, understanding that context, I think really helps people connect the dots in their mind of, why am I doing this? And as soon as that reason is clear, then that's their reason, that's their motive, their motivation to train it in a certain way, or train it in the way that the coach is trying to encourage them to do. So for the most part of my teaching and training, it is from a combat sport style application. And that's not necessarily to go into any particular type of competition, but my aim is that for all of my students, whether they're in my class, whether they're online, whether they're in my membership, which is called Coaching Kali, it's for FMA instructors, brilliant, by the way, or whether we're at a seminar together and we've only got an hour and a half just to interact and get something going. My overall aim is that you can do the things that we're learning in a slightly contested environment. So I'm looking for contested competence. So that is the kind of the sparring idea. And in the sparring, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be like completely chaotic where anything goes and it's all out. I mean, it's fun to do that stuff sometimes when you know what you're doing and you've got enough building blocks to create a castle like that. But for beginners, I'll generally constrain what we're learning and constrain a game with constraints and variables so that they can play the game and like feel accomplished of being able to do their day one techniques that they just learned because it's the first time they picked up a stick, but against someone else who's kind of trying to do it to them, but in a friendly way. So to like accomplish that, we'll use equipment rather than changing the range or changing targets. So we'll use things like very lightweight padded sticks. We use rods, RODDS UK. They're really good padded sticks, and they're so lightweight that even if you get hit on the hand, it stings a bit, but there's no permanent damage. Not permanent. There's no long-term damage. So the penalty for making a mistake is really low. It's a bit embarrassing, but there's no injury, so there's less inhibition for trying something new. And I think that's the way it should be in sparring training, not necessarily in fighting, because in fighting you want to stick to your strong points and win, but in sparring we want to try new things and learn, but without the threat of like, okay, if I mess this up, I'm going to get smashed on the hand and I'm going to break that knuckle and I won't be able to type or drive or do my job and I won't be able to come back training for 6 weeks while it heals. Like that's a really big barrier to get over if you're going to try something new. So did that actually answer the question? That's the kind of thing you might be able to expect in my session at the Festival of Martial Arts. So probably something to do with padded sticks, maybe something with focus pads as well, so you're not even hitting each other on the hand or in the head. If we tend to use head guards if we're going to do contact to the head or body. But that's the kind of thing I want to. With each session, I always want to end up with a nice fun game at the end where it's kind of contested, but kind of fun. Everyone's friends at the beginning and during and afterwards. Nobody's injured, and we get to have fun kind of integrating the techniques that we've learned into that contested environment. That was a long answer to a short question, but I hope that's clear.
Yeah, to a degree. Yeah, I mean, essentially the word fun kept coming up throughout, and that aligns very much with what we're trying to do with the entire weekend, which is to make it fun. What we want to try and move away from is that very sort of po-faced seriousness sometimes that you see, and everyone's so self-important, and it's like they're almost afraid to go on somebody else's mats to look a bit silly, because they're afraid that that's going to somehow impact negatively on how people perceive them, and it's I want to try and shy away from that. I actually want people to have fun. I actually want people to, look a bit silly, act a bit silly, go to things that they wouldn't normally do, and get back into that beginner mindset of all fingers and thumbs. That feeling is a great feeling, and we should sort of embrace that. And so hopefully, what you'll get is people that may not have done anything related to that before, and so you get to play with them, you get to have that fun with it. But again, one of the things I always find with people who cross train and people who do different things is it's all about what's similar, what's the same, what principles overlap one another. It's more about that than it is the differences. So so are you looking to present some sort of weapon stuff, or are you looking maybe some open hand stuff as well, or empty hand rather?
Yes, it depends on the setup. So if there's multiple sessions available, then I'd love to do like an overview. I could do something on stick, something on knife, something on empty hands, and that would be a nice overview. And for anybody who would want to attend all of those, then I can arc it with the same concepts, and therefore, even if you were to attend one of them, you get something really good. But if you were to attend two or all three, then that would be like a deeper level of repetition, and that's one of the ways that I'm sure you're the same, but it's one of the ways that you can chain like lesson plans together in your club. So in one session, you might be focusing on the hook. In another session, you might be focusing on the front kick. And another session, you might be focusing on entry to a clinch or something. But really, the overarching theme might be this particular footwork that you're using to change the distance. So there's levels within levels that we can do there. But just arcing back to that idea of fun, and I've heard this, like these three core objectives said in different orders, and the way that I want to make my training is going to be safe, fun, and effective. But in that priority, safe, fun, and effective. There are other clubs and other trainers who I respect deeply, and for their context and their values, they want to make their training safe, effective, and fun. So the effectiveness is higher on their hierarchy than the fun part. The fun part's still there, but it's higher on the hierarchy is the effectiveness. And then let's say, I don't know, some totally different context where you have a very limited amount of time to train some military troops or something. You want it to be effective, safe, so they can still go and do their job afterwards, and then like maybe fun is somewhere else down the order. But thinking about the hierarchy of those three things, yeah, I definitely want to be safe and fun, because then people will come back and do it more frequently. And then effective is third, but because people come back and do it more frequently, the effective is the thing that mounts up over time and compounds in that way. But yeah, thinking about what we might be training at the festival and that beginner mindset, it's uncomfortable for the very first moment, that first moment where, yeah, you step over the threshold onto a new mat, and I don't know, I have to put on a gi, and I go, what's this? This is so awkward and unusual to me. This is the uncomfortable bit. But as soon as you go from zero to the first part of accomplishment, which could be in the very first couple of minutes, that improvement is like, it's infinitely better, isn't it? From absolute 0 to 1, that's an infinite improvement proportionally. And so for your first 60 minutes, you're going to get this huge rate of improvement and increase in understanding. And that rate of improvement is the important thing to try and focus on and help people with framing. And that's the thing that gets me on unusual mats and training at new clubs and training with new instructors, is even though I think, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable just for that first moment, I'm going to look a bit like a fool potentially, I'm probably going to do the wrong thing, but by the end, I'll have absorbed and gained this huge step here from 0 to not 0.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, agree with you.
We can accommodate for that across the whole festival, and it seems like such an amazing idea and such an amazing vibe. Yeah, I really like it. I'm looking forward to it a lot.
No, thank you. Yeah, no, we're reliant on great instructors like yourself coming forward and making it what's going to be a great weekend. So thank you for being part of it. So just before we wrap up, then, I know you mentioned it once or twice when we were chatting there, but where can people find you if they want to learn out more?
On my website, FightDad.com. So that's just www.fightdad.com. And on there are all my courses. I've got some free courses and free resources. You're more than welcome to join, check them out, see if you get something helpful and useful from there. I've got some paid stuff too, but of course there's no pressure or requirement to do any of that. And if you're on YouTube, I've got some stuff on there. If you're on Facebook, I've got some stuff on there. But the website is the main thing, fightdad.com. Be great to see you there.
All right. No, that's fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming along. And it was great chatting.
Thanks very much, Matt. Take care.
Bye-bye.